Hi peeps, I'm Zan and welcome back to whatever number in the Figma series this is. This is one of the last videos we need to do before we actually start programming, because we're going to change a page that we've created from this into this, which is the grey box version of it. I promise it doesn't take a huge amount of time, and I'm going to go through this as quick as I can and explain why we need to do it and everything else. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are in Figma. As you see, I'm logged on to my normal account, and what we've got to do is to create the grey boxes for our web pages. Now, obviously we have to do this for all of our pages, but due to time constraints, and it's rather boring to see me do this, I'm only going to do this to one of the pages, and then you have to repeat the process for all of the others. I've chosen to do it with the About Me page simply because it's perhaps the most complicated one out of them all. So obviously first thing we're going to do is to click into it, and here we have the About Me page. So first of all, what is the grey box design? Now it looks like it's quite straightforward, even though my boxes were black. The actual colours of the boxes don't matter. The idea is that when we are doing absolute positioning for our website, we need to know the X and Y coordinates of that element and its width and height values to make it extremely quick and easy for us to place them within our web pages. Okay, and that's basically what we need to do. And so what we do is that there's a couple ways we can do it. So for example, now I've actually already got them here hidden. We'll look at those in a moment. There's different ways of doing it. So if we look at the navigation one, for example, I go in there and I need to find the actual background, because this background area denotes the actual part that's going to be reserved for the navigation bar. So we could just create a new rectangle and click and drag over it, which is absolutely fine, or we can just find this rectangle, duplicate it, bring it to the top level, and then change its color. So let's see if we can find it. So we can see it's in group 7. So we open that up and we can see we've got the rectangle at the bottom. So we can just Control C and Control V that, and then we get rectangle 2 and we can move it up to the top, and then we go over to the fill, change it to black. And then we need to take note of the values that we see up here. So the X and Y 0, the width and the height values. Now, as you see, it says 569. So naturally, I shall round it up to 570. Okay, and so then all I do is put on a text box, and I put the information in there. So on goes the text box. Now, here is something that can happen. As you can see here, we get these little sort of circles or text boxes showing up. And this is where you've got to be really careful. So when you're doing this, what I actually recommend you do is to actually lock all the elements below it. So you can see here I've done that lock, and that will stop me. You see here they're no longer showing up. So it'll stop me accidentally trying to edit one of the text boxes underneath rather than creating a brand new one. Okay. The second problem you might have, I'm just going to change the color here so we can see it. Second problem you might have is that you're going to come back over here to reference these values. But notice these values are different because these are the values of the text box, not of the rectangle that it's meant to be writing on. So you have to keep clicking back onto a rectangle to get the values, then clicking into the text box. Now, as you can see here, that gets a bit difficult sometimes to actually get the text box to be shown. And that is often due to these settings here on a text box. If we change it to this one here, the auto height one, although it shrinks, I tend to find that it's now easier for me to click into it than if it's at the set one. Because if it's at the set one and your text now goes down here, it often will not actually register that this is part of the text box, and it gets very difficult to get back into it. Whereas when we use the auto height one, it expands and it does make it easier. It's not always perfect, and I'll be honest with you, it's something that I think Figma could improve on. Okay, is its handling of the text boxes. Again, you just click on there again, click back into it, and that is the easiest way to do it. Don't just keep double clicking, okay, like this, doesn't work. Text field, and then over the text box, and it opens up, and that is the best way to do it. Okay, trust me, you'll have a headache if you don't do it that way. So I've actually already done it for this one, so I'm just going to delete those so I can actually bring up the one I've already did. I don't know which one it is, but let's have a look. There we go. So you can see navigation bar, the X and Y value, as well as its width and height. And essentially you do it with everything. Now, with the About Me, we need to be a little bit more careful, just like I need to do with my speaking at the moment. And that is because the About Me area is actually slightly different from the amount it takes up. And what I mean by that is if we go back to desktop up here and we make our columns visible, it says it is visible, but we can't see it, so make it invisible and bring it back in. Okay, see, the About Me text box takes up the whole 2 columns, so that's where you need to make your box, is across the 2 columns, because then all we're going to do is center the text to get it in the right place. If we start only doing it from where the text is visible, which is this section here, if we then decide to change the font size or even the font as a whole, and we keep the values that we've got just for this area, then we may find that our title will not be centered. Whereas if we span it across the 2 columns and then center the text within that, it will always still be centered. So that's something else to be aware of. Okay, and I say we repeat this sort of process for all of the sections. So see, that was that one. So there you go, see it on for the video. There's the title, and again, notice the text is just very simple. It's just telling us what it is. So a video, which is about me, and again the X, Y, width and height values. About Me title, X, Y, width and height values. That's all that is required. About Me text, okay, and again X, Y, width and height. It is these 3 at the bottom, however. Let me just go back to desktop to get rid of the column. It's these 3 which people do find a little bit of difficulty in, because it's like, well, what should you be given the values for? Should you give the values for the box that it takes up in the size it is now, or for when it is straight, or do you need both? And you have to remember why you are taking these values. We're taking these values to make it quick and easy for us to place them. Okay, so what we need to do, and let me just see if I can find the actual ones in the comments, in the content. Okay, so group 8. So if we go into the rectangle, what we're really after is how to get this white rectangle in place. Yes, we could also add the information for the picture, but the white rectangle is perhaps the most important one. And so, we've got X, Y, width and height values and the rotation. Now the thing is, if we put this rotation back to 0, we can see, whoops, what we need to do actually is do it for the whole group, my mistake. Okay, we see the X and Y and width and height values are different, and so it's these values that we actually need. Width for 200, height really should be 280, and the X and the Y values are important, as well as the rotation, because this is the information we actually need, which I think was it 14.83 degrees? Yep. Okay, because these values, or those values that we need in order to get that the way it looks. Okay, so this is why, here we go, where is it? There we go. This is why we see, Polaroid picture, original coordinates, width 200, height 260, X of 87, Y of 603, then rotation 14.83. Inside it, we've also got the dimensions of the image. we're not too concerned about the position of the text or the positioning of the image, because it's within the Polaroid picture itself. And we don't really need to know the image dimensions, but it does mean it's quicker for us to get the image dimensions right when we're creating our web page. And I say we repeat the process for the other two as well. And that is the grey box system that we need to make, okay? And you need to do this for every single page. For the base page and every page you've designed on Figma is what you need to do. And I guarantee you this, and I can't stress this enough, the amount of time that you will save in building your web page when you do this, when you make these grey boxes, is just unbelievable, okay? Because when you do this, you suddenly notice a lot of things. For example, you might suddenly realize that the actual size of your web page is too big or too small, and you need to start to resize it now, and then rearrange everything, all your assets, until it's correct. Whereas if you wait until you're building your website, you'll spend a long time building your web page. You'll then view it and find out it's the size of a postage stamp, or the size of the side of a house. So it's best to do it here and get all the values right. And with a little bit of thinking, you should realize if these values are right. I know that my web page is, I can't remember what it is actually now, so let's have a look. If we go on to desktop, okay, my web page is 1300 pixels across. Just double checking this, does that sound right to me? Is 1300 pixels okay? What does that mean on a screen? And we know that a screen is 1920 by 1080, or at least on a normal full HD screen it is. So this is just over 2/3 of the width of the screen. Now, if this happened to be 4000, which I've seen on some students, they suddenly go, it's too big, even for a 4K website, it's too large. I've also seen web pages designed by students where this value is only 600 or even less than that. I've seen someone do it at 400, and the problem is that when they were doing the work, they had just zoomed in and in and in like this, and so everything looked like it's proportionate because it's too far zoomed in. And so it's very important to always make sure that your values seem right. This one here is 640 pixels wide. Does that sound right? Should that be half the page? Does that sound about right? And if it does, then great. And if it doesn't, then check it. Remember, this is why we always have this preview. It allows us, well, it looks weird, doesn't it, like that? But it allows us to check, are these dimensions correct? This is it being viewed at 100%. Is this how I want it being displayed? Okay, so those are things you need to do. And believe it or not, this is a quick one. This is the end of this video. As always, hope it's been useful. I know it's a boring one. I know it's a boring task that you need to do, but you have to do it on every single page. Trust me, it'll make your life so much easier and actually make building a website a lot more enjoyable. So as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. This is Zen, signing out.